I was reading something a listener, Alex, sent in, and it really resonated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It said, I'm busy, really busy, but sometimes I wonder if what I'm doing will make any difference in the long run. And like that feeling of just spinning your wheels,
Ugh.
well, that's kind of the heart of what we're diving into today with the 7 habits of highly effective people. We're looking at this idea that effectiveness isn't just about managing your time.
Right.
It's about managing yourself based on some, well, pretty fundamental principles. Principles of character, really.
Yeah. I mean, that's so key, right? Because it's easy to get caught up in just doing stuff, filling your days. But are you actually accomplishing anything meaningful? Anything that, moves you towards what you really care about?
Totally. And this book, The 7 Habits, it's really had staying power,
Yeah.
You've got endorsements from everyone, a captain in the U.S. Navy Reserve,
Yeah.
business leaders like Fred Reichheld,
Yeah.
coaches of all kinds. Even Admiral Vern Clark, former chief of naval operations, mentioned it, like over 2 decades later. That he still finds it relevant. That kind of impact,
Yeah.
it makes you think there's something really special there, some real wisdom.
It's powerful stuff. And I think it comes down to the emphasis on what Covey calls the character ethic instead of just the personality ethic.
Okay, so what's the difference?
Well, think of it this way. The personality ethic is often about surface level techniques, trying to charm people, put on a good show, smiling more, that kind of thing. But the character ethic, that's about digging deeper into your core values, things like integrity, honesty, fairness. It's saying that real lasting success, real effectiveness, it comes from the inside out.
Okay, so it's like building a house on a strong foundation, not just putting up a facade.
Yeah, exactly. And that leads us to this whole idea of paradigms, right? The way we see the world, the assumptions we make. It's like, remember that image where you can see either a young woman or an old woman? Two people can look at the same thing and have completely different experiences, but both are valid in a way.
I know that one. It's wild how your brain can just flip it back and forth.
Right. And that's the point. We all have these lenses we're looking through, our paradigms. They shape how we interpret everything. And being able to recognize that, that our view isn't the only view or necessarily the right one, that's a huge step towards becoming more effective, more open.
I like that. So in this deep dive, what we're going to do is unpack these core principles from the 7 habits to give you, the listener, some real takeaways, some tools to help you move beyond just being busy, like Alex was saying. And we're going to look at these habits as kind of interconnected steps on what Covey calls a maturity continuum.
Maturity continuum.
Moving from dependence to independence. That's the private victory, right?
Right.
And then on to interdependence. But let's start with that first stage, mastering yourself, the private victory. And that starts with habit 1. Be proactive.
Be proactive.
Now, when you hear proactive, you probably think, just taking initiative, right? But there's more to it than that, isn't there?
Yeah, there's definitely more to it. It's about really taking responsibility for your own life. It's understanding that your behavior, it's a result of your choices, not just your circumstances, the things that happened to you. Viktor Frankl, his experience in the Nazi concentration camps, it really illustrates this. Because even in those horrific conditions, he realized he still had the freedom to choose his response.
Wow.
It's incredible.
That's heavy, but it really makes you think.
Right.
So there's this space between what happens to us, the stimulus, right, and how we react, the response. And that's where our power lies. It's not just about positive thinking. It's about acknowledging reality, for sure, but then consciously choosing how we're going to move forward.
Yeah.
Rather than just being swept away by our emotions or whatever's happening around us.
Exactly. And the book talks about this in terms of the circle of concern and the circle of influence, right? So the circle of concern is everything we care about, our health, our family, global events, everything. But the circle of influence, those are the things we can actually do something about.
Oh, I see.
And proactive people, they focus their energy on that circle of influence. So for someone like Alex, who's feeling overwhelmed, the key takeaway is to think about, okay, what's one thing within my circle of influence that I can act on today, to address that feeling of ineffectiveness.
Okay, I see what you mean. So instead of feeling helpless about all the things we're worried about, we focus on what we can actually control. We take action.
Exactly. And there's an example in the book about Parents who are worried about their son's performance in school, their initial reaction is to blame the school, right?
Yeah, that's a common one.
That's in their circle of concern. But if they shift their focus to their circle of influence, they start thinking about, okay, what can we do to support him? Maybe help him with his studies, have some conversations, that kind of thing.
Right, right. So it's about being solution-oriented,
Yeah.
not just dwelling on the problem.
Exactly. And it's interesting how this proactive approach extends to our relationships, too. The book talks about love as a verb, not just a feeling.
All
You
right,
know,
act as a verb.
reactive people, they let their feelings dictate their actions. Oh, I don't feel loving today, so I won't do anything nice. But a proactive approach to love, it's about conscious effort, showing kindness, listening intently, expressing appreciation. Those are the actions that nurture the feeling of love.
That's a good point. It's like you can choose to act lovingly even when you don't necessarily feel it in the moment.
Right.
Okay, so being proactive. It's about taking ownership, recognizing our power to choose, focusing on what we can impact. It's about acting from our values.
Mm.
And that leads us to the second habit. Begin with the end in mind. This doesn't mean like thinking about death all the time, does it?
No, not at all. Begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
It's based on the idea that everything is created twice. First in the mind, the mental creation, and then in the physical world.
Okay.
So think about like building a house. You wouldn't just start hammering away without a blueprint, right?
Right.
That's what this habit is about. It's about personal leadership, defining what matters most to you, which comes before the management part, figuring out how to get there.
Okay, so it's about having a vision, a sense of where you want to go in life.
Exactly. And one tool that the book introduces is a personal mission statement. It's like your personal constitution, outlining your core values,
Yeah.
and it guides your decisions.
Interesting. A personal constitution. I like that.
So having a well-crafted personal mission statement, that becomes your center. You know, the book talks about all these different centers that people build their lives around: a spouse, family, money, possessions, work, pleasure.
Right.
But all those can be pretty unstable, right? Because they're dependent on external factors, things you can't control. But a principle-centered life,
Yeah.
based on timeless principles like integrity, honesty, service, that offers a much more secure foundation.
That makes sense. If you're basing your life on things outside of yourself, you're always going to be at the mercy of like the winds of change.
Exactly. But with principles, it's different.
It's something solid to hold on to. And the book also mentions this idea of detecting rather than inventing your mission. It references logotherapy, which is like the idea that our main drive is to find meaning in life.
Right. And that suggests that each of us has a unique purpose. Our mission isn't something we just like make up. It's something we discover within ourselves. And once you connect with that sense of purpose, it fuels your proactivity. It gives you that clear roadmap.
I like that. So once you've got this end in mind, how do you make it real? The book talks about visualization and affirmation, but these aren't just about, positive thinking, are they?
No, not at all. They need to be rooted in those principles and your personal mission. So visualization is about using your imagination to see yourself achieving your goals, acting in alignment with your values. And affirmations are positive statements in the present tense that reinforce those visualizations.
Okay.
So the book outlines a few key elements for effective affirmations. They should be personal, positive, present tense, visual, and they should evoke emotion.
Right.
So instead of saying, I will be more patient, you might affirm, I'm calm and understanding in challenging situations. And then you vividly imagine yourself acting that way. Really feel it.
Oh, okay. That makes it much more tangible, I guess.
Exactly.
It's like creating a blueprint in your mind for how you want to be. And the book also suggests crafting mission statements for different roles in your life, parent, professional, whatever it is, to help achieve balance. And it also talks about how families and organizations can create mission statements together
Oh, that's interesting.
to foster shared values and unity. Okay, so we've been proactive. We've got our end in mind. Now for the practical execution. Habit 3, put first things first. So this is about managing our time and our priorities effectively, right?
That's it. This is where the rubber meets the road. Habit 3 is the practical application of habits 1 and 2, where your self-management, your independent will comes into play. And effective management here means prioritizing those first things, the things that align with your values and your mission.
Okay, I see. So how do we figure out what those first things are?
Well, the book introduces this thing called the time management matrix. We won't go into all the details now.
Yeah, we could do a whole deep dive on that alone, probably.
Totally. But the basic idea is to focus on what Covey calls quadrant 2 activities. These are the things that are important but not urgent.
Important, but not urgent.
They're the things that often get pushed aside, but they're crucial for long-term effectiveness. Things like prevention, building relationships, exploring new opportunities, planning.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So for someone who feels like they're just constantly putting out fires, shifting their focus to quadrant 2, it can be a game changer.
Right. It's about working smarter, not just harder.
Exactly. And what's interesting is the suggestion to organize your week around your different roles and goals, rather than just reacting to daily to-do lists.
Okay.
So by taking that weekly perspective grounded in your broader mission, you can proactively schedule time for those important quadrant 2 activities.
That makes a lot of sense because daily to-do lists, they can easily just become a reactive exercise.
Right.
Just putting out fires all day. But weekly planning, that allows for more intentionality, like you're actually designing your life.
Exactly.
And the book also talks about delegation as a key part of putting first things first. It's not just about like dumping tasks on other people, is it?
No, not at all. Effective delegation, especially what Covey calls stewardship delegation, it's about empowering others. You focus on the desired results, not the minute details of how to achieve them.
Right.
You give clear expectations in 5 areas: desired results, guidelines, resources, accountability, and consequences. It takes more upfront investment, but it's so much more effective for leveraging your time and for developing others.
Okay, I see. So it's about trusting people to do the job their own way,
Yeah,
as long as they get the desired outcome.
exactly. And there's a great example in the book about delegating yard work to a young son. The focus is on the outcome, a clean yard. And the son gets to decide how to get there, with the parent as a supportive resource.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's
Okay.
shifting the dynamic from just telling someone what to do to actually partnering with them.
Right.
Okay, so we've covered the private victories. That sets the stage for moving from independence to interdependence, the public victory. And the book really emphasizes that you can't have true success in your relationships without first having that personal mastery.
It's all connected.
And it introduces this concept of the emotional bank account.
Nah.
What is that exactly?
So the emotional bank account, it's a metaphor, right, for thinking about trust in a relationship. You make deposits through acts of kindness, courtesy, keeping your word, and really trying to understand the other person. And you make withdrawals through things like rudeness, broken promises, disrespect. So the higher the balance in the account, the stronger and more resilient the relationship is.
So it's like you're building up a reserve of goodwill.
Exactly. And what's interesting is how important those seemingly small interactions are, those little acts of consideration,
Yeah.
because they build up over time. Well, even minor breaches of trust can chip away at that balance.
Right.
And the book also stresses the importance of clarifying expectations up front, to avoid misunderstandings, and practicing loyalty, speaking of others as if they were present. Those are all deposits.
Those are good points, and of course, apologies.
Yes. Sincere apologies are vital, especially after withdrawal. But insincere apologies, or just constantly apologizing, those can actually do more harm than good.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when it comes to building trust, it's about consistently showing up with kindness and integrity. It's about being trustworthy.
Exactly. Living the laws of love, as the book puts it. Understanding, acceptance, unconditional regard.
Okay, so we're building a strong emotional bank account. And that puts us in a better position for the next habit, right? Think win-win.
Think win-win.
This is about how we approach our interactions with others,
Yeah.
aiming for outcomes that are mutually beneficial.
Exactly. Win-win is a mindset. It's about seeking mutual benefit in all interactions. So you're trying to find solutions where everyone feels good about the result and everyone's committed to making it work. It's collaborative, not competitive.
It feels like so much of our world operates on a win-lose mentality, though.
Right.
This idea of a zero-sum game. Like, if I win, you have to lose.
And the book even talks about how, things like grading on a curve in school, that reinforces that competitive mindset.
It does.
And that ties into the scarcity mentality, right? The belief that there's only so much to go around, which is contrasted with the abundance mentality, which comes from a deep sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
And a belief that there's enough for everyone.
Right. So with an abundance mentality, you're more willing to share recognition, share resources.
Exactly. You're not afraid of someone else's success
Yeah.
because you believe there's enough success to go around.
Okay, I see. So how do we actually achieve win-win? Is there like a process?
Yeah. The book outlines a process. So first, you try to really see the problem from the other person's perspective. Put yourself in their shoes, then you identify the key issues and concerns involved, and then you determine what would constitute a complete win for all parties.
Okay.
And then finally, you brainstorm possible new solutions to achieve those wins. And it also points out that sometimes, if a true win-win just can't be found, then no deal might be the best outcome.
Well, that's interesting. So it's okay to walk away sometimes.
Sometimes, yes, if it's not going to be mutually beneficial. And both courage and consideration are so important for win-win. You need the courage to advocate for your own needs, but also the consideration to understand and meet the needs of others. And the book emphasizes setting up win-win agreements with clear expectations about results, guidelines, resources, accountability, and consequences.
So it's not just about, like, good intentions. You need to have a clear framework.
Exactly. And also making sure that your reward systems, they're aligned with those win-win principles.
Okay, so we're aiming for win-win. We've got a framework. We're thinking abundantly. Now, how do we communicate effectively to actually get there? That leads us to habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Seek first to understand.
This sounds like it's about truly listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
That's it. That's the core of it. Most people listen with the intent to reply, to formulate their next point, you know?
Yeah, I'm guilty of that.
We all are. But this habit, it's about making a fundamental shift, prioritizing understanding before trying to make yourself understood.
Right, so the book talks about empathic listening. What does that actually mean?
So empathic listening, it goes beyond just hearing the words. It's about putting yourself in the other person's shoes, understanding their thoughts, and even more importantly, their feelings.
Okay.
The book outlines a few stages of empathic listening. The first is mirroring content, just simply repeating back what they said, then rephrasing the content in your own words, and then reflecting feeling, identifying and acknowledging their emotions. And the most effective level is combining those last two, rephrasing the content and reflecting the feeling.
So not just saying you feel sad, but like it sounds like you're feeling really disappointed about what happened.
Exactly. And there's this example in the book of a father talking to his teenage son.
Okay.
And it highlights the difference between ineffective, what Covey calls autobiographical responses, and truly empathic listening. The father keeps relating everything back to his own experiences. He's completely missing his son's real emotions.
We've all been there. On both sides of that conversation, probably.
Probably. And the impact of that empathic listening, it's huge because it builds the emotional bank account, fosters trust, and it opens the door to those win-win solutions. It's like the book says, diagnose before you prescribe, you know. You wouldn't trust a doctor who gave you medication without even understanding your symptoms. Same applies to communication. You need to understand the other person's perspective before you can effectively address their needs or even share your own.
That's a great analogy. So it's not just about like learning a technique. It's about having the right intention, a sincere desire to understand.
Exactly. Okay, so we've built trust. We're thinking win-win. We're seeking to understand. And that brings us to habit 6, synergize.
Synergize. This sounds like where the magic happens, right?
Yeah.
Where the combined effort creates something even greater.
That's it. Synergy is all about valuing differences and communicating openly, leveraging the unique strengths and perspectives of everyone involved to create solutions that are better than any one person could have come up with alone. It builds on all those previous habits, especially win-win and empathic listening.
Right, because you need that foundation of trust and understanding.
Exactly. And the book mentions that the creative process of synergy, it can be a little unsettling at first because you're entering unknown territory.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know exactly what's going to come out of it.
It can be scary to let go of control.
It can, but the potential for really innovative third alternatives, it's huge.
Third alternative. So it's not about compromise. It's about creating something new.
Exactly. And the book gives some great examples, from a classroom where students are building on each other's ideas to an insurance company meeting that generated these unexpected solutions through open dialogue. Even the story of David Lilienthal and the Atomic Energy Commission. It illustrates how diverse perspectives can lead to powerful synergy.
Yeah, and there's that fishing vacation scenario in the book, too, that really shows the different levels of communication.
Yeah.
From being defensive and closed off to genuinely seeking that synergistic solution, one that meets everyone's needs. It's about moving beyond the either-er to find the creative and.
And the book also points out that interpersonal synergy, it often starts with intrapersonal synergy.
Interpersonal synergy. What's that?
It's integrating our own logical and creative thinking, the left brain and the right brain.
Oh, okay.
When we can tap into both sides of our own minds, we're better equipped to collaborate synergistically with others.
So it starts with ourselves.
It does, and it also highlights the importance of addressing those underlying emotional and psychological factors, that can get in the way of synergy: fear, insecurity, ego.
Right. Those can be real blockers.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've reached the sixth habit. We've moved from dependence to independence and then to interdependence. Now, there's one final habit that ties it all together. Habit 7, sharpen the saw. So this is about self-renewal, right?
It is. Sharpen the Saw emphasizes the importance of balanced self-renewal in 4 key dimensions: physical, spiritual, mental, and social-emotional. It's about investing in yourself, because you are the tool for your own effectiveness.
Right, you got to take care of the instrument.
Exactly.
So let's break those dimensions down. Physically, it's about taking care of your body through exercise, nutrition, rest.
Right.
And the book emphasizes exercise as one of those crucial quadrant 2 activities
Yeah.
with long-term benefits.
Yeah, it's an investment in your future health. And spiritually, it's about connecting with your values, your sources of meaning, whether that's through meditation, nature, service, whatever resonates with you. And then mentally, it's about continuous learning, reading good literature, the book says, challenging material, and organizing your thoughts. It even suggests that reading good literature is a high-leverage quadrant 2 activity for expanding your mind, as opposed to just passive entertainment like watching too much TV.
Right. It's about actively engaging with ideas. And then there's the social-emotional dimension, which is about nurturing your relationships, making those deposits in your emotional bank accounts.
Right. And there's this powerful idea in the book called scripting others positively.
Scripting others positively.
It's based on the Pygmalion effect, which is this idea that your belief in someone's potential can actually influence their behavior.
Oh, wow. So, like, if you believe in someone, they're more likely to succeed.
Exactly. And it works the other way, too, unfortunately. If you don't believe in someone, they're more likely to fail.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It is. But it's also a powerful reminder that our words and our beliefs have a real impact. And what's really critical about Sharpen the Saw is that renewal in each of these dimensions. It positively influences the others. It creates this upward spiral of growth.
Okay.
So taking care of your physical health can boost your mental clarity, which can enhance your spiritual connection, and so on. It's all interconnected.
Right. It's holistic.
And the book emphasizes that daily private victory, dedicating time each day to renewal, as essential for integrating all those 7 habits and building that inner security.
Okay, so we've got these 7 habits. They're not just a sequence. They're interconnected. They reinforce each other. And this whole journey from dependence to interdependence, it's built on these character-based principles.
It's a lifelong journey, really.
Right. And the book also introduces this concept of the PPC balance, production and production capability, using the fable of the goose and the golden egg. What's the idea there?
So it's this fundamental principle of effectiveness. The P represents the desired results, the golden eggs, and the PC represents the asset that produces those results, the goose. So true effectiveness lies in balancing the achievement of results with nurturing the capacity to achieve those results long term. You can't just keep taking the golden eggs without taking care of the goose.
Right, you got to feed the goose.
Exactly. And this applies to all our assets,
Okay.
physical, financial, and especially human.
Especially human.
Treating employees as volunteers, investing in their development. That's key to sustain productivity.
It really brings it all together, doesn't it? These aren't quick fixes. They're principles to live by, a continuous journey of growth. And thinking back to what Alex said about feeling busy, but not necessarily making a difference.
Right.
It really makes you think about where we're putting our energy. The book mentions how toward the end of his life, Maslow, the psychologist, he talked about self-transcendence, contributing beyond ourselves.
Right.
Which raises that really powerful question. How many people on their deathbeds wish they'd spent more time at the office or watching TV?
That's a great question. It really encourages us to consider our long-term priorities.
It does. So for you, the listener, I'd ask, which of these principles resonates with you the most right now? And what's one small step you could take today to start sharpening your own saw in one of these areas?
Something to think about.
And, as the book itself acknowledges, these principles continue to be relevant and they're explored further in other works. So this deep dive It's really just a starting point.
Just the beginning.
We encourage you to reflect on these insights, maybe even revisit the 7 habits yourself. And who knows, we might delve into some related topics in future deep dives based on your feedback.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening.